Hello, and welcome to Dugout Debrief. I'm your host, Chris DeLuca. This is Boom Broadcasting's one, first, and only baseball-centric podcast, and we are once again back here in the month of July. Here going into the second week of July. We're very close to the All-Star Game, less than a week. The rosters have been announced. Of course, we've been doing some discussion, some capacity over here over the past couple weeks here, past 3 weeks. We did our own picks. We showed our ballot a few times. Roster's been announced, and I don't think there's any major snubs. Maybe when it comes to starting, there's a few players that didn't make this year that probably should have made it, but we'll have a quick discussion on that. We'll have a little bit of a home run derby preview based on who they've announced. One thing I really don't like about the derby is they wait to the last second to announce who's all going to be in it. I think there's 2 or 3 slots still open as of right now, which I'm not a very big fan of them waiting like that. But I have a rough prediction of who I think will win just based off of who's already been announced. So we'll go over that too. But mainly, we're going to have our news. We're going to get right into that here in a second. There's a lot of news to talk about this week. Weirdly enough, for the first and a half week of July, there's been a lot of news. Second week of July, I guess. And we'll have our trivia, power rankings, etc. So with that being said, the Toronto Blue Jays are hot with a 10-plus game winning streak, with series wins over the Yankees and the Red Sox, which are crucial for this point in the season, especially with New York. 3.5 games above New York. Red Sox are kind of hot right now, despite the fact they traded Rafael Devers away. But still, with those series wins, that is very, very important for the Toronto Blue Jays. Timing it well with New York and Tampa sliding. Like I said, Tampa's not doing well either. I think they only have 4 wins in the past 10. And this is what they need. This is really what Toronto needs. They finally can show their capability. I mean, they've kind of just been sitting there stagnant for a long time. Guys like Vlad Jr. and George Springer are hot. George Springer has 6 home runs in this run. Vlad Jr. is hitting 283. He only has about 3 home runs, but still, he's hitting for average, which is not something he normally does. So the former MLB The Show cover finally showing his, true capability. And the other thing about this run that really fascinates me too is that you have some of the not superstar guys, not household name guys, like Ernie Clement is doing well. Addison Barger, I believe I pronounced that right. Barger is doing quite well. And Davis Schneider as well. Davis Schneider doing well as well. So, I mean, the rotation also being what we picture it, what it should be. Chris Bassett, Kevin Gausman, and Jose Barrios all doing well. Bassett got shelled once against Boston, like right at the beginning of the run, I believe, giving up 6 earned. But outside of that, he's been doing quite well. And the big question is, are they contenders? Well, at this rate, yes. Yes, obviously they're contenders. I do not think New York is going to continue to be 3-7 over their last 10. There's no way they're going to continue like that. They're obviously banged up, and there's a lot of things going on with them. But heck, I think if Toronto can go into the month of September with a 6-game streak, or 6 games up, rather, I definitely think that they can win that division and surprise everyone. And once you're in the playoffs, you're in the playoffs. And regardless, even if New York passes you, you're probably fine. I don't see Tampa passing Toronto, even if Tampa goes on a run towards the end of the year, even with guys like Jonathan Aranda. And, they're always going to find ways to win. The Rays will always find ways to win. But Toronto, I think they get in regardless. And once you're in the playoffs, anything can happen, especially in that really top-heavy American League where you've had teams like Texas, who are supposed to be really good, not doing as good as we expected. And a major advantage that I think that Toronto also has is the fact that place is just different in the postseason. They're really fun to watch when they're good. We obviously all remember the early 2010, mid-2010s runs that they had where they went to the ALCS with Jose Bautista. The bat flip and all that excitement was a really, really fun time to watch baseball. And they have the whole country on their back overall. I mean, obviously the Expos aren't there anymore, and even when they were there, they weren't that good. Toronto has 2 World Series titles, and I think it would be interesting to see them get back into the playoffs and make a run. I think that place is just different. Rogers Center is different. The way that it's built, it's almost like Lumen Field in Seattle, where it just brings all the sound down, pushes all the sound down to the field. It's a rare time that you see that in baseball, and it's honestly a rare time where the crowd actually has an effect in baseball, because I don't really think that's a thing, despite what some people might say. I might be very unpopular for saying that, but say la vie. Anyway, Nationals fire Dave Martinez and Mike Rizzo. General manager Mike Rizzo, manager Dave Martinez are out in Washington. So the former Cardinal infielder Miguel Cairo will take the interim managerial role. And it can't be forgotten that Dave Martinez was the manager of the Washington Nationals during that 2019 World Series run. So he has a 500 and 622 overall record with a 325 and 473 record since the World Series win in 2019. And he was 37 and 53 this season. He had no winning seasons, 100 loss season since the World Series. Again, this makes sense. I've had this discussion on the show previously, that Washington is one of the rare examples of winning in your last possible year of contention. Literally, everyone said that window was going to shut after 2019. Of course, it did. No more Max Scherzer. Steven Strasburg, unfortunately, never recovered from his career ender. Just all those guys. Anthony Rendon was gone as well after that year. So a lot of players, pretty much everyone was gone going into 2020, and they won when they could. So just not surprising. Washington, I think, is just building kind of from the ground up with guys like James Wood, who we're going to talk about later, with guys like Dylan Cruz, who's been struggling. He's also been injured a lot this year. But, a great season for Mackenzie Gore. I wasn't expecting much from Washington, but still, I guess that they want to move on from the old guard. They wanted to test the waters with Dave Martinez with this young team to see if he was the right one to guide in the future. But overall, I think that they can contend. I think that they can contend in a few years. It's just going to be a while. A young team takes time to develop, but so is the beauty of arbitration. You actually get time to develop together as a team. So we'll see. It's one of those teams that you hope the best for, and we'll see what happens. Anyway, some more kind of unfortunate news to get into, to say the least. Luis Ortiz of the Cleveland Guardians is being put on non-disciplinary paid leave for potentially betting on baseball. So we never like to see that. He is out minimally through the All-Star break. So with him, there's obviously a lot up in the air. But he's suspected of fixing a pair of pitches back in the month of June. There was an unusual amount of betting patterns on a pitch that would be basically a ball or a strike. So for those who don't bet, there's some of these prop bets that you can do really quickly, where you can bet if an inning will begin with a ball or a strike, or if it'll end a certain way. And there was an unusual amount of them saying that they will begin in a ball thrown for certain innings that he was pitching. There are a lot of third-party companies, I guess they're companies, that basically do gambling ethics with this kind of stuff. They do it for all sports. That's why you see these, you think about all the hundreds of pitches that some pitchers even throw a game, and doing that over an entire season. It's very interesting that they can actually find correlation with that. So I assume there's some kind of disclosure that the major apps have to oblige by when it comes to these ethical gambling organizations. But anyway, I'm not an investigator. There goes my alarm. So as you can see, we're a one-take show here. Suspected of fixing pitches. One was a slider in the dirt on June 15th against Randy Arozarena of the Seattle Mariners, and the other was a slider that went outside against the St. Louis Cardinals on June 27th. So the 15th and the 27th of June. These are weird situations. It's always very hard to tell, and you really can't judge at this point right now because, there's an unusual amount of bets. Well, 5 people, 10 people at the same time could have just been, in theory, watching the game being like, I want to make this bet right now. That can happen. Maybe it was an unusual amount of money. I don't know if it was an unusual amount of bets, if it was a bunch of small bets, or if it was just one huge amount of money. I mean, you'd think it would be a bunch of small bets because that's slightly less suspicious, but who knows? A group of people could have just gotten together and done that. But, obviously these situations need to be taken seriously. And regardless, this is what I was worried about because as you can basically bet on anything. I mean, heck, you can bet on the color of the Gatorade that gets poured on the coach after the Super Bowl. You can bet on the first song that's played at the halftime show. You can literally bet on anything. And that is my biggest fear with this is that with these prop bets being more and more hyper specific, it's going to be easier and easier to hide right now. And then you have situations like that where you have to basically have a knee jerk reaction to a situation like this where Luis Ortiz, who knows, maybe it was just a bunch of people bet a bunch of money on one particular pitch, and now he's going to miss playing the game. He's still getting paid, which is good, obviously, but he's going to miss playing games. Or he might have actually did it and they caught him. Who knows? I don't know what technology they use. I don't know how they judge this. I don't think any of us do, but looks like people doing it. So really, it just creates a bad situation overall. It's one thing if you're betting straight up who's going to win or who's going to lose, but, a pitcher can probably easily hide if they want to go over 5 strikeouts or if they want to go under 5 strikeouts. Predominantly under is the easy one, but you can just, if you're winning by 10 runs and it's the 9th inning and you have 4 strikeouts, you need to get to 5 and the under is 4, you can just walk a guy or whatever, where you can just into a ground ball situation. It's a lot easier to do that. It's a lot easier to fix things now with these prop bets is overall my point. Yeah, we hope that that's just a weird coincidence and he wasn't actually betting on baseball. But regardless of that, we're moving on. We're kind of shoving the unfortunate news here in the middle of the news segment. As a Spencer Schwellenbach, I always have to slow down when I say his name, will be shut down for at least 4 weeks with a fractured elbow. The Atlanta Braves pitchers had a pretty solid year this year, going 7-4 with a 3.09 ERA. 15-day IL minimal means will be out till probably September at least. And it's a huge hit for the Braves pitching staff. It was already, struggled early. The Braves really, really started out of the gate slow, and they're finally building back. But is it too late? We talked about that earlier in the year. Teams that it's too late for versus not. Atlanta, I don't think it's too late for them. But still, one hit to the pitching rotation for them is not going to help. They need every single piece they can have. So we hope Schwellenbach recovers fast. And yeah, we had 2 retirements here over the past week. One was Kevin Pillar, and the other was a Tucker Barnhart. Tucker Barnhart was a 2-time Gold Glover for the Cincinnati Reds, Detroit Tigers, Arizona Diamondbacks, Chicago Cubs, and Texas Rangers. We got 2 journeymen who are retired here. Obviously, Kevin Pillar, most notable, at least in my heart, for taking a pitch to the face, immediately getting up when he broke his nose and trying to go to first base. The catcher being like, "What are you doing, man?" So that's what I'll always remember him for. Really a lot of grit, though. He is one of the grittiest players, I think, in recent memory. Retired with a 16.1 career WAR. Just immediately getting back up after that moment was just crazy, trying to go to first base. That's hockey stuff right there. You don't see that in baseball. You see that in hockey where they just, glue up the guy's eyebrow. They go back out and they put stitches on it in the intermission. But he played for Toronto, most notably. He was actually part of those aforementioned early 2010s Toronto Blue Jays teams. He was also on the San Francisco Giants, Angels, Mets, Braves, Red Sox, Rockies, Rangers, Dodgers, which I almost forgot about, White Sox, which I completely forgot about. So there are a couple of them I actually forgot about here. So, yeah, most notable with Toronto. We wish both of them a happy retirement. And this is actually how I remember that Tucker Barnhart won a Gold Glove too. So, the show has its other uses outside of entertainment. Moving on to just some other kind of better news here. Jake Mizorowski continues his dominance, his 5th career start. He went 6 innings, pitched 4 hits, 1 earned run, just 1 walk with a career high 12 Ks against the Los Angeles Dodgers and a 5-1 win over the Dodgers. in Milwaukee. I actually picked this guy up in fantasy. I picked him up in my dynasty. It's the best decision I've done this year so far. Not doing as well as I did last year, but still a good long-term pickup because it's dynasty league. He's going to be a keeper for sure. I unfortunately didn't start him this week. I thought he was due for a bad start, especially because the Mets got 5 on him the previous one. But he has just been dominant, and he's been really, really good. And when he's doing this against teams like the Dodgers, that at this age, only being his 5th start, that shows that he is going to have a great career. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do for Milwaukee. Him, Freddie Peralta together, especially with no Brandon Woodruff. And no Corbin Burns, I think that can really help with Milwaukee potentially being able to come back past Chicago, stay in the NL Central. So really high in Jake Mizorowski, their number 1 ranked prospect, obviously, having a great start to his career. So we love to see that. Alex Verdugo has been DFA'd by the Atlanta Braves. He had a negative .2 WAR, and he batted .239 this year. Guy who struck out to end the World Series for New York. He was part of the famous trade between the Dodgers and the Red Sox for Mookie Betts. He has been, gone to the Yankees. He's on Atlanta, not very good this year. Jurickson Profar got activated from his gambling suspension. So, just being back here. Or Profar's PED suspension, rather, not gambling. See where the mind was with Luis Ortiz there. Cardinals promote JJ Weatherholt. He had a great AAA stat line this year, batting .300 with 34 RBIs, 7 home runs with the Memphis Redbirds. He was a former key part of the Mountaineers' run to the Super Regionals, where they made it to Chapel Hill last year and almost made it to Omaha. Part of a really good, time in WVU baseball history the past few years have been back-to-back Super Regionals. JJ Weatherholt, first-round pick by St. Louis. I believe he went 7th overall. Obviously people were complaining about his size, complaining about that, but he's had a great glove this year. He's been stealing a lot of bases. He's been doing all the tools of the game that he needs to be doing. I think he's going to be a great part of that St. Louis Cardinal organization when he finally makes major leagues. Finally, we had a couple signings here. The Mariners signed Rowdy Tellez. Yankees signed Jamir Candelario, who was DFA'd by Cincinnati. Astros signed Hector Neris. I think this is his 2nd time with the Astros, if I remember correctly. Brandon Drury back with the Angels on a minor league deal, and the Mets signed former Blue Jay, I believe Marlin as well, relief pitcher Zach Pop. So with that being said, that is the main news of the week. We've had a decent amount of news this week. If you have anything else that you can think of to talk about in the news segments, just put it in. Or if you have any other segment you want me to add, just put it in the comments. I'm always open ears. So here at the about 18-minute mark, we're going to be going over the All-Star rosters briefly. And I'm more so just going to be kind of reading them off. Cal Raleigh starting at catcher for the American League, no surprise there. Vlad Jr. starting at first base, no surprise. Gleyber Torres starting at second. Second base is a weak position this year. In the American League, Jose Ramirez starting at third base. Jacob Wilson getting that start at shortstop. We love to see that. Obviously there's a lot of competition between him and Bobby Witt Jr. Aaron Judge, no surprise. Riley Green, no surprise. Javier Baez, we love to see it. We really do love to see it. But I do think that there could have been, I really do think that Byron Buxton deserved to be out there over Javi. Obviously, we'd love to see Javier Baez bouncing his career back. But again, it could be worse. The same thing goes for infield in general. With shortstop, again, it's so hard because you also have Jeremy Pena, who's having a great year too with Houston. So, reserves include Alejandro Kirk, Jonathan Aranda, who's having a good year. Shout out Jonathan Aranda. Alex Bregman having a good year with Boston. Jazz Chisholm Jr., kind of a popularity contest there. Brandon Lau, Jeremy Pena, aforementioned, Bobby Witt Jr., Candelario, Byron Buxton. Again, I think Byron Buxton should have been in the starting role. Stephen Kwan also should have been potentially in the starting role too, but again, he doesn't hit a lot of home runs, so he's not as attractive there, I guess, to a lot of voters, fan voting as is. J-Rod as reserve outfielder. Finally, Brent Rooker as a DH for reserve. Shout out Brent Rooker, one of those A's having a good year. Hunter Brown more than likely will be the starter. Starting pitcher, you have Chris Bubik, I always mispronounce his name. Garrett Crochet having a good year. Jacob deGrom, shout out Jacob deGrom, having a bounce back year. Max Fried having a good year. Kikuchi for the Angels now. I almost said he's still in Toronto, but he's on the Angels. Tarek Skubal, who will probably be the starter, actually. Him or Hunter Brown, more than likely to be Skubal. Shane Smith, who represents the White Sox. Brian Wu, I'm happy he finally got an all-star nod. He deserved it. He's finally having a good year as part of that great Mariners rotation. For relief pitchers, Aroldis Chapman, Josh Hader, and Andres Munoz for Seattle also, who has been having a great year in that relief role. So the American League, I don't really think there's a lot of huge snubs necessarily. With National League, I think there's maybe one big snub I could think of off the top of my head, and then one starting snub that I'm not really big on. So at catcher, Will Smith, completely uncontroversial. Only other catcher is Hunter Goodman. He's Colorado's sole representative. So Freddie Freeman at first base. Kentel Marte, I know a lot of people didn't really like that, the fact that he was starting, but I think he deserved it because Suarez having a really good year. 2, Manny Machado at third base. Francisco Lindor, that's a close one. I would have close given it to Ellie. I don't know. Ronald Acuna Jr. out there in the outfield with PCA, Kyle Tucker, and obviously Shohei Ohtani at DH. So I would say that if I could make a change here, I would say James Wood should be starting over Kyle Tucker. James Wood having a great year this year. Ellie De La Cruz potentially should be there in the starting role. But Ellie over Lindor, it's a close one. Some notable ones on the bench: Pete Alonso, Brendan Donovan, Matt Olson, Corbin Carroll, who's injured right now. He's not going to be playing. Kyle Stower is not expecting that. I think he's the Marlins sole representative. Fernando Tatis Jr., Kyle Schwarber, obviously James Wood, Ellie De La Cruz, Eugenio Suarez, all there as well, aforementioned. So, yeah, really not too bad. I just kind of think Trey Turner, I would have probably put him in there, but I think the main reason Trey Turner is not there is because you got to have one player from each team. So you end up with like Kyle Stowers being there, Hunter Goodman. I mean, you need 2 catchers, but being there as well because you got to have one from the Marlins, one from the Rockies. So if you have any opinions on the All-Star roster, put it in the comments. I'm just more kind of going over it. So Monday we'll have the home run derby. The full roster has not been announced yet, but we have a rough list, and I have a rough idea of who I think will win. So we got Ronald Acuna Jr. here. We got Cal Raleigh, who's been practicing. He's been practicing with his dad here. He's been taking this really seriously. Cal Raleigh, obviously the MLB leader in home runs. Nobody saw that coming, but we love to see it. Byron Buxton, O'Neal Cruz, he's going to be fun to watch. I feel like he's a boom or bust kind of guy in the home run derby. And then finally, my pick to win the home run derby with 23 home runs. Give me James Wood of the Washington Nationals. I think James Wood will win the home run derby in 2025. We obviously have like 2 more slots to be announced, but we'll see. I'm looking forward to the home run derby this year. I know everyone else is. I look forward to that more in the All-Star Game, to be honest with you guys. So with that being said, we have our series of the week, and we have 2 big ones. Coming off a walk-off inside the park 3-run home run against the Philadelphia Phillies, hit by Patrick Bailey. We have the San Francisco Giants, and they're at home hosting Los Angeles Dodgers. Giants obviously are hot right now, even though Rafael Devers has not been recently. So a win for the Giants, a series win for the Giants could gain some ground in that wild card race, in that division in general against the Dodgers, who have been about 5-5 over the last 10. They struggled against Houston. That will be reflected in our power rankings. Next series of the week, we have the Phillies at the Padres. The Phillies, the victim of that walk-off inside the park home run. They're fighting for the Mets for first. San Diego is falling behind the Dodgers. San Diego has been sliding a little bit, so it's a good opportunity to get back on the right track, especially when you have the Dodgers playing the Giants, which are, as always, anyone can win that series, regardless of who your team is. And then finally, the Cubs at the Yankees. It's a first place team versus a sliding second place team. Cubs doing much better than expected this year, but the Brewers aren't too far behind, especially led by a pitcher like Jacob Mizorowski. The Yankees are sliding behind Toronto now, and Tampa could even potentially pass them. So we will see. It is a close matchup right now. Imagine if Tampa passes New York. That would just be wild. Imagine if Tampa passes New York comfortably. So a series like this, series won by the Cubs here, the Rays win a few games, that could happen. Even though it's July, still interesting to see. Moving on to our power rankings this week, we have a huge shakeup because number one, I think, is pretty obvious. Shocked Cody, obviously, when I told him, when I sent him the number one, he could not believe it. But with that being said, at number 5, we have the Chicago Cubs. At number 4, all the way down at number 4 now, we have the Los Angeles Dodgers. Number 3, we have the Houston Astros, first place in that AL West. Number 2, we have the best team in baseball. Still, by record-wise, we have the Detroit Tigers. And at number 1, we have the scorching hot, aforementioned Toronto Blue Jays, who I think can get in the playoffs and win that AL East. So put your power rankings down in the comments. I'd love to see them. So trivia, and we are out of here. So last week, where we were on a stadium kick here for a couple weeks. So last week, what MLB stadium has the lowest seating capacity, not counting the temporary stadium? So we're not counting Tampa at Steinbrenner Field, and we're not counting Sutter Health Park in Sacramento. Out of all the real ballparks, it is Progressive Field in Cleveland at 34,631, and I guess that's why they get so loud in the playoffs. But that was surprising that they didn't have much capacity, especially considering Progressive Field was built in like 2002, I think, something like that. Late 90s, early 2000s. It's a pretty new stadium, so surprised to see such a low capacity, especially for a team that has such a huge fan base. This week, who leads all time in All-Star wins as a team? So the American or National League. So who has more wins in the All-Star game? It's the American League or the National League. With that being said, I want to once again thank you for tuning into Dugout Debrief here before the All-Star game. We're going to do a quick All-Star game recap next week, and we're going to go cover whatever news that has happened. We'll talk about the Home Run Derby, obviously. A little bit hard to do that right now because we're a weekly show, and they don't announce the Home Run Derby participants until like the last possible second. So it's okay. I'm looking forward to the All-Star weekend here, outside of the fact that there's like 2 days where there's absolutely no sports on. That's the one downside of it because, there's no basketball, no football, no nothing. So no baseball for that matter either during that time. Make sure to subscribe to Boom Broadcasting. Make sure to watch shows like The Gridiron Address, which will be back very soon. 3 from Deep, quick hits, all great coverage of all different sports here on this great channel. And we have Dugout Debrief here. I hope you enjoy the All-Star break. I hope you enjoy your week. See you next Thursday.